Good morning, children. Welcome to the English session. Today, we shall learn a poem, The Tale of Custard the Dragon, written by Ogden Nash. The poem is written in the style of a ballad. A ballad is a song or a poem that tells us a story. Ballads usually narrate tales of courage or heroism. This poem is a humorous ballad close to a parody. Now let's analyze the poem. Belinda lived in a little white house with a little black kitten and a little gray mouse, and a little yellow dog and a little red wagon, and a really a truly a little pet dragon. Now the name of the little black kitten was Ink, and the little gray mouse she called him Blink, and the little yellow dog was sharp as mustard, but the dragon was a coward and she called him Custard. So here the poet says that once there was a little girl named Belinda. She lived in a little white house. She lived with some creatures who were her pets. They were a black kitten, a gray mouse, a yellow dog, and a creature that the poet says was really and truly a dragon. She carried all of them on a little red wagon. Later, the poet explains the name of all the animals that are tamed by Belinda. He says that the name of the black kitten is Ink, the name of the gray mouse is Blink, the little yellow dog had yellow color, and so she calls him Mustard. And the dragon that was a coward means was a weakling, was called as Custard. Custard the dragon had big sharp teeth and spikes on top of him and scales underneath, mouth like a fireplace, chimney for a nose, and really or truly daggers on his toes. Belinda was as brave as a barrel full of bears, and Ink and Blink chased lions down the stairs. Mustard was as brave as a tiger in a rage, and Custard cried for a nice safe cage. So here the poet describes the dragon that it had big sharp teeth and spikes on top. This means that its skin was pointed on the top. On the lower part it had scales which were bony plates to protect the skin. His mouth has been compared to a fireplace because it is assumed that dragons can release fire from the mouth. Even his nose is compared to a chimney which is used to pass out smoke. His feet are like a sharp knife, that is, a dagger. So now the poet explains the inner strength or the bravery of various characters of the poem. He says that Belinda was as brave as a group of bears, and Ink and Blink were so brave that they could hunt lions. So here he has shown the bravery of the kitten and the little mouse that could hunt even a lion. The dog was very brave, just like an angry tiger, but the contrast of all of them was Custard. Custard the dragon was not brave. He was so afraid of everything that he always demanded a safe cage. Belinda tickled him, she tickled him unmerciful. Ink, Blink, and Mustard, they rudely called him Percival. They all sat laughing in the little red wagon at the really truly cowardly dragon. Belinda giggled till she shook the house, and Blink said weak, which is giggling for a mouse. Ink and Mustard rudely asked his age, when Custard cried for a nice safe cage. Belinda used to stroke the dragon in a very cruel way. Ink, Blink, and Mustard made fun of him by comparing him to a knight named Percival, who was thought to be brave but ran away due to lack of courage. They used to tease the dragon while sitting in their little red wagon. The poet says that Belinda used to laugh so loudly that her voice echoed in the house. Blink the mouse used to laugh and make a sound of weak. On the other hand, Ink and Mustard would tease him by asking the dragon his age whenever he used to demand for a nice safe cage. Suddenly, they heard a nasty sound, and Mustard growled, and they all looked around. Mute! Cried Ink, and ooh! Cried Belinda, for there was a pirate climbing in the window. Pistol in his left hand, pistol in his right, and he held in his teeth a cutlass bright. His bear was black, one leg was wood. It was clear that the pirate meant no good. So while all of them were making fun of the dragon, they heard a sound of someone entering the house. When they looked towards the window, they saw a pirate climbing up the wall. The dog barked at him, and the kitten mewed to him. Belinda cried ooh because all of them were scared of the pirate. The poet describes the appearance of the pirate. He says that the pirate was holding handguns in both his hands and had a little sword too. He was holding his sword with his teeth. He had a black beard and his one leg was made of wood. This means that though the pirate was a disabled person, but still he was frightening. Moreover, he intended to harm them. Belinda paled and she cried, "Help, help!" But Mustard fled with a terrified yelp. Ink trickled down to the bottom of the household, and little Mouse Bulling strategically mousehole. But up jumped Custard, snorting like an engine, clashed his tail like irons in a dungeon. With a clatter and a clang and a jangling squirm, he went at the pirate like a robin at a worm. When all of them saw the pirate, they got frightened. Belinda was so frightened that she turned yellow due to fear and started crying for help. Mustard, the dog, started crying for help too. The kitten Ink ran down towards the bottom of the house as if he had already planned for it. The mouse Ink ran into his little mouse hole in order to save himself. When all the other characters that we earlier defined as very brave got frightened, the dragon did the most unexpected thing. He jumped onto the pirate and made such a strong sound with his nose as if the engine was producing a sound. Not only this, he hit his tail on the ground with a great force that it produced a heavy sound of metal being rubbed against each other in the underground prisons. He attacked the pirate just like Robin Bird that attacks the worms. The pirate gaped at Belinda's dragon and gulped some grog from his pocket flagon. He fired 2 bullets, but they didn't hit, and Custard gobbled him every bit. Belinda embraced him, Mustard licked him. No one mourned for his pirate victim. Ink and Blink and Glee did gyrate around the dragon that ate the pirate. The pirate got so shocked by the dragon's reaction that he opened his mouth wide with shock. To gather some strength, he drank some alcohol from a container in his pocket. After gathering some courage, he fired 2 bullets on the dragon, but missed it. Custard the dragon ate every bit of his fierce-looking pirate. When the pirate was dead, Belinda hugged the dragon and Mustard licked him. No one was sad for the death of the pirate. They all were happy. Both Ink and Blink were running round the dragon in happiness. So here, the poet says that all the characters were happy and they were showing their gratitude towards the dragon as he had saved them. But presently up spoke little dog Mustard. "I would have been twice as brave if I hadn't been flustered." And up spoke Ink and up spoke Blink. "We would have been 3 times as brave, we think." And Custard said, "I quite agree that everybody is braver than me." Belinda still lives in her little white house with a little black kitten and a little gray mouse and a little yellow dog and a little red wagon and a really or truly little pet dragon. Belinda is as brave as a barrel full of bears, and Ink and Blink she's lions down the stairs. Mustard is as brave as a tiger in a rage, but Custard keeps crying for a nice safe cage. After they thanked and showed their love towards the dragon, they changed their mind. They were reminded of how they used to make fun of his coward dragon, and now they all were praising him. So at once the dog said that it was just because of some confusion that he wasn't able to do anything, otherwise he would have been twice as brave as Custard. Both Ink and Blink also said that they would have been 3 times braver than Custard. To this, the dragon said that he fully agreed to this, that all of them were more powerful and braver than him. At last, the poet used the same lines again to show that after this terrific episode in which the dragon was the hero while all the other characters still undermined him by saying that they were more powerful than him and could have handled the situation in a much better way, the poet says that life started again in the same manner. Belinda still lives in that little white house with Ink, Blink, Mustard, and Custard, and all of them are very brave, whereas the dragon is still a coward who always wants to stay safe in his cage. The theme of the poem. Do not judge a book by its cover. Custard is always mocked for being cowardly, whereas the others are quite brave. However, when a pirate breaks into Belinda's house, she and Ink and Blink and Mustard are all frightened. It is Custard who charges at the pirate and eats him alive all at once. The one who had seemed to be the biggest coward is the one who saves the day in the end. On the other hand, the pirate had been full of bravado when he was entering the house, but he loses all of that as soon as he sees Custard approaching him. He can only stare at Custard and have a drink to prepare himself for the unavoidable fate of being gobbled up. Thus, neither Custard nor the pirate are what they seem to be. Therefore, we should never judge someone without fully getting to know them. When the situation demands it, they are bound to show their true colors, and these may surprise us. The summary of the story: Belinda lives in a little house and owns a mouse, dog, kitten, wagon, and a dragon. The dragon, Custard, is very scared and is a coward unlike the other animals in the house. The other animals make fun of his cowardice. Custard one day is very brave. A pirate comes in and scares everyone but not Custard. Custard eats the pirate and saves everyone else. Now let's analyze the poetic devices. The rhyme scheme of the poem. Each of the 14 stanzas in The Tale of the Custard the Dragon follows the same simple rhyme scheme: AA, BB. The first literary device used is oxymoron. In this rhetorical device, contradictory terms appear in conjunction. In this poem, the poet uses the device of oxymoron when he writes the phrase pet dragon. That is, two opposites are combined together. We all know that dragons are dangerous creatures, and therefore we find it hard to believe that they can be domesticated. The second one is simile. Simile is a comparison of two different things with the usage of like or as. In this poem, the poet uses the device of simile in the third line of the second stanza when he compares Belinda's dog with Mustard, saying that both are sharp, and also uses the word as while making the comparison. The poet also uses this device in the third line of the third stanza when he compares the dragon's mouth with a fireplace, and also uses the word like while making this comparison. In the fourth stanza, similarly, the poet compares Belinda with a barrel of bears and her dog with a tiger. In the 10th stanza, the dragon is again compared with an engine and a robin, and the sound of its tail with that of irons in a dungeon. The third figure of speech used is metaphor, which is also a comparison between two different things, but we do not use the terms like or as while comparing. In this poem, the poet uses the device of metaphor in the third line of the third stanza when he compares the dragon's nose with a chimney. The fourth figure of speech used is personification. Personification is giving human qualities to a non-human thing. In this poem, the poet uses the device of personification with respect to Belinda's kitten, mouse, and dog. In the second line of the fifth stanza, he gives them all the human ability to speak and tease another being. They are seen teasing the dragon. The fifth figure of speech used is onomatopoeia, which is known as sound words. The poet here uses the device of onomatopoeia in the second line of the sixth stanza, where he uses the word weak to describe the sound of a mouse, which means giggling. The sixth figure of speech used is compound words. Compound words are formed by adding two words into a single one, but normally those words are not used together. So here in this poem, the poet uses the device in the third line of the seventh stanza when he combines the words meow and ouch to create the word mewch. The seventh figure of speech used is transferred epithet. This device is used when an emotion is attributed to a non-living thing after being displaced from a person. In this poem, the poet uses the device of transferred epithet in the second line of the ninth stanza when he writes the phrase terrified yelp. It is not the yelping sound that is terrified, for it is a non-living thing. But for that, the dog is terrified by the pirate and yelps in reaction. The eighth figure of speech used is anaphora. The phrase and a little is repeated in the third line of the first stanza and in the second and third line of the second stanza. The ninth figure of speech used in this poem is repetition. Realio, trulio are the two words that are repeated in the poem. Realio, trulio is repeated in the last line of the first stanza, last line of the third stanza, and the last line of the 14th stanza. Thus, we have come to the end of the session. Thank you and have a nice day.